After doing bachelor's, I ended up at IIT Bombay as in a research internship which became an assistantship. We built an augmented reality multiplayer shooter game. So as you know, I run RealDev Squad. Not a mentoring group, but like a coaching group, right?
Okay.
Where you coach people in things that they don't know they need yet for the industry. Code is the most predictable thing that runs until the time you understand the constraints and where it executes and why you need to write it. People in a particular industry relied on folks to know the domain completely in and out before they could code. You would not have 90% of developers doing anything. Because if you try to reach the hard level and you don't meet that standard and you fall down to medium, you're still going to be better than average. I would say people should first figure out why they want to write code. What is the part in that job that interests them? Markets don't change overnight, right? Just because AI showed up, suddenly AI jobs will be there and programming jobs will disappear will not happen overnight. Don't buy into the hype is basically what I'm saying. Know people in advance, have good, authentic, genuine connections with them. And one day when they are looking for a teammate, if they like you and they know your skills and what you do, chances are they are going to ask you, hey, we have this opening.
Hi, welcome to yet another episode of Scale Up Pod. And today we have with us someone who is quite well known in the tech community. Hi, Ankush.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah. So I'll start off with, my typically icebreaker question with all of my guests so far usually is what does a typical day in your life look like? It's an interesting twist to the question, I know, because recently somewhere you were saying you were a bit homeless these days. So, what's a day in your life right now?
So, absolutely right. I used to live in New York
Yeah.
because I was working for Bloomberg there. And then I joined this new company called Fountane.
Right.
And it's completely remote. New York was a little too expensive.
Right.
Let the lease expire, came here to India to attend a company event. And I'm technically homeless.
Okay.
So now I have to go back and find another place for myself. But life at the moment is interesting. I've been shuffling between Bangalore and Hyderabad.
Right.
We had a company event happening in Hyderabad.
Hyderabad, where your offices?
Yes. A lot of people are in Hyderabad, and the company flew everybody to Hyderabad for the event, and it was a great 3 days. Met almost everybody in the company there.
Right.
We had the leadership team fly in from US. We flew in everybody from different parts of India and other countries into Hyderabad. And after that, I came back to Bangalore again. Been living out of an Airbnb, getting work done and meeting people.
Nice. So I'll come to how that transition also has been for coming from a pretty large company like Bloomberg to joining at a startup, and also why did you do such a thing? But let's get started with getting to know a little bit about your journey in tech so far. How has it been? What did you get started with, and what all places has that trajectory taken you so far?
Yeah. So my journey in tech starts from doing bachelor's in a college which is in almost middle of nowhere.
Okay.
14 kilometers right and 41 kilometers to left is absolutely nothing. So in the middle of highway, it's in a place called Thanjavur.
Okay.
Studied bachelor's there. Had interesting experiences. So after doing bachelor's, I ended up at IIT Bombay as in a research internship which became an assistantship after I graduated. While I was doing the internship, just before that, I applied to a few colleges for masters just as a safe bet,
Right.
and one of them actually gave me a large scholarship.
Interesting.
The only issue was I could not defer the scholarship for next year, so it was either take it or leave it.
Okay.
So I decided to take it, saying it helps with the finance, right? I'll go there, do a master's, then I'll also continue research work, end up into PhD, do some heavy research somewhere. And so with that, I flew down to US, went to University of Florida. The moment I entered that college, this is the first time I was between people and an environment where people were building stuff. There were clubs where they're doing algorithms. This is the first time I felt like I was in a proper engineering environment.
Okay.
Heard of this thing called a hackathon happening by Microsoft, right?
Okay.
So I thought we are going to go and hack. And I used to do these funny things from time and again. So I ended up there thinking, maybe they'll give us an IP and say, okay, hack it or whatever. And they're like, build an app. They launched the Windows 8 phones at that time.
Yeah.
The Lumias.
Lumias.
Yeah. And they wanted to basically flood the App Store. So they were doing hackathons around the country.
Right.
I didn't know anything about app development. So sat there. There was free pizza for 2 days. So that time it was a big plus. Participated there, met a few people in undergrad who I teamed up with, and then decided to do this competition called the Imagine Cup. So we built an augmented reality multiplayer shooter game.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. This is before Pokemon Go, before Ingress. We got selected by Microsoft as top 10 teams, and they flew us down to Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And over there was a startup boot camp. Did not know anything about startups. Did not know why we were there. This was free. We met like founders from Yelp and TaskRabbit, and it was a total fun experience there. So I came back and I said, okay, you know what? I know how to code. I can follow the path and get an internship, which I did. I actually got an internship at Amazon.
Yeah.
I almost got an internship at Bloomberg at that time, but then decided not to continue with the interviews there. I wanted to do a startup because now I suddenly had the startup bug. Yeah. Forget research, forget studying. I took all those remote classes. So at that time, I had a personal problem with the browsers.
Okay.
So I don't know if you remember back in 2011, 2012, if you had a lot of tabs open on your Chrome and the Chrome crashed.
Of course, yeah.
You lost all the tabs.
Yeah. Now they sleep in the background, but that was not there. Yeah.
They sleep, the recovery mechanism is better, they reopen. Yeah. There are a lot of extensions that helps you now, but at that time it was really painful. And I wanted to build a session manager for Firefox.
Okay.
As I was building that and also looking at AngelList for what startups are doing around, I came across this designer, founder guy who didn't put much about his startup, just said some tacky line. And I reached out saying, hey, I'm looking for getting into a startup. Seems like you have a startup. Let's talk. And he responded. We got in a meeting. I found out that what he was trying to build was almost similar to what I wanted to build.
Right.
But his design was 100 times better.
Okay.
Right? I'm like, wow, I can never design this. So I asked him why he didn't build it so far. And he's like, I don't know how to code.
Okay.
Perfect. Right?
Match made
here, right in AngelList. It was fun. It took a one-way ticket. Actually, my parents were not very thrilled with the idea of startup. So I asked a friend for help. He gave me $500, bought a one-way ticket down to Los Angeles, Pasadena. Told my friend, hey, I'm going to live with this guy I've never met. Something happens, like call the cops. Started working with him, and in the first 2 weeks, I kind of knew that I'm going to work with this guy for a really long time.
Right.
Like, it was a fun experience, but again, I was a guy who did not know much of how to build products. And he had very high standards because he was a designer for more than 20 years at that point.
Okay.
So he wanted things done a particular way, right? He wanted the perfect shadows, the perfect UI. He was thinking about all the proper like transitions and animations. And I had to keep up. A guy who's still doing his master's, never built apps like these before. Yeah. I had to keep up with what he was trying to do with the product. Ran that startup for almost 7 years. It didn't go anywhere. A lot of mistakes. First time founder and basically not knowing kind of what we were doing. Visa didn't work out because it was a startup. It was not making money. So I had to come back to India.
Got it.
Continued it here in Bangalore. About 1.5 years more. And with time, the money completely ran out. And my landlord came saying, you've not paid rent for 3 months, right? Like, do something about it. So I said, okay, time to find a job. Through luck, through previous connections, found a job at Hotstar.
Right.
Worked there, found a job at Hotstar, and also got a job at Amazon in US.
Okay.
Through an old connection through Imagine Cup.
Okay.
But as you know, like you apply for the visa, it goes through a lottery, then it gets picked up. It's almost like a year before you can go back to US. So I was in Hotstar for a year, had a blast. Right? Like you work with a lot of the folks from Hotstar. Yeah, same folks, right? I resigned from Hotstar, and I was going to fly down to Seattle, and then this pandemic happened. All the flights got cancelled.
Right.
The Amazon team said, hey, if you don't show up here in a month or two, we can't keep this role open. It's been more than a year. So ultimately that team kind of dissolved, but then I was able to find another team who would have me. In the meantime, I also joined Pesto as a web instructor. Did that for 2 batches. and then went down to Seattle, worked for this company called CrowdStrike. You must have heard it in the news.
Everybody has heard about it now.
That's the good part, right? Now I don't have to
Did you
explain.
have anything to do with the code that actually?
That's confidential. Let's just say while I was there, no bugs did show up. So after that, I went to work for Bloomberg, and then I found Fountane, and there are a lot of things I did outside of my work that really resonated with Fountane. So as you know, I run RealDev Squad. Very long time ago, I decided to do this, not a mentoring group, but like a coaching group, right? Where you coach people in things that they don't know they need yet for the industry.
Right.
And not just the tech skills, but even all the other skills that makes you a better professional.
Right.
That kind of aligned with what Fountane is also doing for their employees, and the founders, like they care about their employees and their growth so much that it was just a natural fit. And now I'm at Fountane.
Right. So I definitely have some questions about how did RDS get started and what all happens there. That's I think in the tech community and Twitter, a lot of people know about RDS also. But before that, I have a question, and then I see this is a question that a lot of people also ask. Some of your experience, for example, Hotstar is like a typical consumer internet app. It's media app. And then something like CrowdStrike is like it's systems engineering and security software, all of that.
Right.
Bloomberg is a finance place. So
Amazon is e-commerce.
Yeah. But still, I would say, Amazon, Hotstar, still in the consumer internet space.
Yeah.
But something like on-device security, finance, and consumer internet, these are very different domains. And a lot of times sometimes there are people I'm just advising and I'm saying that, hey, there's this place where you could probably go to, they're hiring, and they'll be like, hey, but all my life I have only worked on mobile apps. How can I go and work at a bank? And it's a completely different domain.
Right.
What's your take on that? You have worked on like three very different industries. Like, is it difficult to do that, or how easy is it to adopt to, like, or is it like everything is just software and you can write anything?
So more of the latter part. Software, right? You understand how software works, you understand how tech works, you know the interface between the domain, like people who you need to contact, generally the product and in the business. At the end of the day, code runs, right? Code is the most predictable thing that runs until the time you understand the constraints and where it executes and why you need to write it. So you want to work in finance. If people in a particular industry relied on folks to know the domain completely in and out before they could code, you would not have 90% of developers doing anything, right? Like, it's good to know, it definitely helps, but it is secondary, because at the end you need a few people, a handful of those people who can translate the requirements from the business down to the coding aspects. Tech, you know how to code, you know how to navigate the uncertainty, and you are good with asking questions and adapting. I think with time you can make yourself comfortable in any industry that you enter.
And is it like in the early days, is it overwhelming? Like, let's say all your life, all you have done is probably write React, and then suddenly new place you have to write C++ code to write trading software. So how do you kind of make your way through it in the early days?
So my first experience at Hotstar was like this, where I had done Ember.js for most of my life, and JavaScript, and I had learned React but never done it in a production code, and I had not built enough projects in React. Like, I was not going to look for a job. It just so happened that I had to look for a job.
Right.
So somehow I made it through the interviews, and in the debriefing, like, I was later told that one of the points was that he's not worked on React before. But then the counterpoint was that my basics and my JavaScript was strong.
Right.
So they took a bet, and thankfully it worked out. But the first day when I was assigned to my pod, I walked there thinking there's going to be proper onboarding and somebody's going to walk me through code, and it's a big company, they'll have a big, like, proper established process. And I got 2 bugs assigned the moment I walked into the stand-up. Like, not that dramatic, but like after the stand-up I had 2 bugs, and by the end of the day I had 3 more issues to fix. And initially I was overwhelmed. I'm like, this is React, I don't know, how will I do this? If I ask, maybe they'll fire me, I don't know. Because this was my first time ever working with a team, like a technical team. In my startup I was the only technical guy, right? But then I'm like, hang on, I know how the browser works. I know how the debugger works. I know the basics of React, and I have all these smart people around me. If I ask them specific questions, maybe they'll help me out, or they'll tell me what the next steps are, and I can read and I can Google, and I'm like, wait, it's just going to take me longer.
Right.
But I'll figure it out. And went in with that approach, did some things right, did some things wrong, and then eventually just learned React at job and think I did okay.
Great. I think sometimes people just need to hear it from somebody who has gone through it to get the also confidence, because I see sometimes people are pretty scared of switching tech stacks or switching domains in a very drastic way. But yeah, I mean, great example. People who are watching. So another thing is, I mean, you have gotten a chance to spend part of your career in India, part of it in the US, also like different places, also like West Coast, East Coast, both. How has been like the difference in this? Do you feel like there's a difference in how people work or how companies work in these two places?
I think, as with engineering, the answer is it depends.
Right.
It depends on the location, it depends on the team, it depends on the company, it depends on the company culture. There are just a lot of variables to like try to put them in very specific buckets. In terms of differences, I think I had most fun in working in India.
Right.
I could take a lot more ownership a lot sooner.
Right.
I think there was just too much chaos happening to like navigate, and somehow I thrive in chaos.
Right.
I don't know, it's a personality thing or need of the hour or whatever it is. But in terms of differences, there are subtle differences that I've seen. I think generally like work-life balance tends to be slightly better in US.
Yeah.
I like some of the laws and regulations they have in certain states.
Right.
Like, things which are exploited here in India, especially for like people trying to join or switch companies.
Yeah. Notice periods and all that stuff.
Yeah, notice periods and like salary slips upfront and that kind of stuff. 30% hike.
Yeah. I mean, a question a lot of early career people do ask is, is it worth it to spend a few years of your career in the US, and like, does it add some sort of like, invaluable learnings in your career which you probably will never get if you stay forever in India in tech? You also have to go through quite a bit of the whole immigration dance.
Yeah.
However you go, like there are 2-3 parts, but each way is like lots of complications there. But yeah, people try to figure out like the trade-off of, should I like go through all that immigration drama, but then we should spend a few years of a career in US, is what people say. What's your take on that?
Interesting. I think for me personally, there are two things that I really like about being able to work in US. One is exposing myself to not being in my comfort zone. So when you're in India, a lot of things are figured out, especially if you live in your home city and if you live at your home, right? There's so many responsibilities that you don't have to take up. But when you go to a completely different country and try to like adjust there, it helps you grow. And apart from that, I think generally like the initial salary hikes tend to be quicker there with the kind of work that you do.
Right.
Here we get like, sometimes there's a glass ceiling. There are some rules that are put into place to kind of like not help us grow financially that much.
Right.
Again, that might be a very biased opinion. So should people go there if you can afford it, and your health and your family and everything falls into place? I think people should give it a try, because it's a reversible decision. That is how I went there.
Yeah, I can come back when
you can come back anytime you want, but you cannot go there anytime you want. Right? So many lottery has to come through and you need to get selected, and there has to be a company that's waiting for you for like almost a year. That chance is very difficult to get by.
Right.
If you get it, I would say go do it. See how it goes for you. If you don't like it, just come back.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Coming to, I think, RealDev Squad, right? And that's quite the thing which you are now known for. So I meet people and I tell something about, I was talking to Ankush that day, like, who Ankush? Like, RealDev Squad. Oh, acha. So that's quite the thing you're known for now. What was the inspiration behind starting it in the first place?
That's a good question. The inspiration for RealDev Squad was first year of college, the one I was telling you a few minutes ago. My college was in middle of nowhere. When I went into engineering, I was very excited, right? You see these movies and series, and this college is this fun and hip place, and people are like doing a lot of stuff. I entered my college, and you know how though you have the scene where you are dreaming and the dream's going well, and suddenly the glass shatters and the reality strikes. The moment I entered into my hostel room, that happened for me. Like I remember my parents were walking behind me, and I entered the room, and I'm like, this doesn't look like what I had expected. I had expected, right? This is supposed to be an engineering college. These next 4 years were supposed to be different. So the expectation did not match the reality. But luckily, I adapted quickly. My mom came in, she gasped, she's like, you live here? I'm like, yeah, that's how a boys' hostel is. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, 4 years? How will I survive here? Anyway, I'm like, okay, let's look at some silver lining. Maybe the studies are going to be fun. We got most of our professors there did not care what they were teaching. I'm like, okay, I'm here for computer science. It's going to be fun. Let's keep the hope up. For our C subject in first semester, we were assigned an English teacher from civil department who did not know anything about C programming. And at that moment, I'm like, if I don't do something now, after 4 years, life is going to be tough for me. I didn't have guidance in my family. Nobody did computer engineering. Seniors were hard to connect with because everybody was busy or they had their own culture, which I kind of didn't subscribe to. And unfortunately, most of my peers, even if they knew there were opportunities, they would hide that they were like either applying for an internship or they were doing a certain course because the competition increases from a tier 3 college and now their chances will decrease if somebody better tries to apply for the same thing. So there's very scarcity mentality and I hated it.
Yeah.
Right. My philosophy was like everybody should be able to, like you should become, your ability should be good enough to compete and then whoever is best, they should get what it is.
Right.
So I promised myself I will not keep knowledge and information to myself.
Nice.
Right. I'll go and I'll disperse it. And then together we'll all compete for what we'll do. And then whoever wins, wins. And then I'm like, I'm sure there are enough jobs out there. I may not get the most paying, the best job. I'll just settle for second best or third best. Or maybe even like job number 50.
Right.
At that point, I didn't know what was the state of the industry because I had nobody to tell me that. I started sharing whatever I learned, whatever practicals were happening, coding, anything. I was doing that. And then around like second semester, I said, you know what? When I get into the industry, because right now I need a direction, but I don't know what to do. Like I'm ready to do things. I don't know if I should learn Java, if I should focus on C++. There was this thing called applets we were learning in college, which is deprecated, but nobody told me, right? I'm like, I'll catch these people in their first, second years and at least help them think about things that you need to do now that will help you in the industry. A simple example of that would be like, let's say building a very simple JavaScript app for web, or maybe if they're interested in phone, letting them build a very rudimentary Android app. Very simple stuff. Just so that they have some practical training. The idea was to try to help them in a way where they don't even know that they need that help just yet. Because in college, people have different priorities. 4 years seems very far away, right? And when the 4th year is there and now you need a job, sometimes it's a little too late to suddenly catch up, right? And then people get stressed, overwhelmed, whatnot. So I started doing that. I'd not joined Hotstar. I would go to LinkedIn. I would go to Twitter. I would say, hey, I'll teach you for free. Like I've been doing web for like 5 years. I'll like sit with you 6 hours on a Saturday, like kind of the hackathon that you did, right? Yeah. I'm like, I'll teach you. Like I'll actually sit and teach you for free.
Yeah.
But I think because I was from a no-name startup and I didn't have a brand that time, and there's this guy on the internet yelling, right? I'll teach you, I'll teach you. People probably thought it's a scam. I don't know. Not many people bought into the idea. But then I started getting DMs from a few people who were in the industry. They would say, hey, can we also like join this training program? I'm like, you've been working for 2 years. Why do you need to like do this basic, web 101 sort of a course? And they're like, oh, we didn't learn these things. And now we are in this company. We are not like learning much or growing much. We want to like change, get to a better product. I didn't know what a product company was, right? I was that dumb. So I said, okay, I'm in Koramangala. Let's meet every Saturday at the Starbucks and I'll teach you. So this person, he started coming there every 2 weeks. I would give an assignment, he would do it. And 2 people started showing up. I went back to US, did similar thing. And as I started doing this, I'm like, okay, I want to build an online platform. There, when somebody wants to learn, they'll get an assignment, very simple assignment, right? Open up your developer console, write hello world and see it printed. Very simple assignment, and the level will grow with time. Typical gamified approach. The only difference is when you sign up saying, I want to do this game, it'll say you have 7 days to complete this.
Yeah.
On 5th day, if you've not checked saying, I have finished this, you will get an email or an SMS or a WhatsApp message saying, oh, Arnav, we saw that you signed up, you took this task, but you've not done it. Our human mentor is going to call you to ask you why. Just to like shock you a little bit into saying, oh, I have to now answer to a human being, right? Now, I'm sure a lot of people will still not do it.
Yeah.
But maybe a small percentage will say, oh, I don't want to like have that uncomfortable discussion on why I didn't do something so low effort. So I was building a site like that. And I was also like teaching these people. I joined Hotstar, did a session there, met a few people. We started a WhatsApp group, started giving them assignments and challenges. WhatsApp didn't scale very well, so moved to Discord. And with time, I was trying to craft more and more real world challenges because I didn't want to do the cookie cutter, easy stuff all the time. And then everybody was of different levels, right? Some people learned faster, some people were slower. So I couldn't keep giving them the same problem and keep taking the same cohort. So I said, okay, how do I construct this challenge in a way where different people at different levels can continue to grow at their own speeds? So I started solving that problem, and that started becoming difficult. I had to like customize challenge for everybody and then track them, and some people would drop off, so it would waste my time. And then I'm like, okay, now I was also seeing gaps in how they were writing their reports, how they were writing their email. And I'm like, okay, you might know how to code, but if you can't communicate well, how will you go and interview somewhere? How will you talk to your teammate more effectively? Okay, I'm like, should I take that up? Should I teach them? Should I not teach them? I'm like, you know what? Let's sign up to do the whole thing, right? I never signed up to teach them tech. I signed up to help them do better, like get a higher quality life. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then one day I said, why am I doing these two things, right? Building this website and also trying to craft a challenge. I'm trying to create real world situations. If I run this as a company, even I don't know what challenges are going to show up just yet. It's going to be it's not going to be a simulation at that point. It's going to be the real thing. We'll be doing actual development. All the problems, all the challenges will be real. The only difference is people will do this after their full-time engagement. So we'll have that expectation set. And the intention is people will grow. So I was like, yeah. And this will also force me to make sure they learn things the right way because I want to build the product I want to see.
Right. So, I mean, instead of simulated problems, now just building the RealDevSquad website itself becomes the real
problem. Not just the website, all the apps that we are working on, which are going to be there for the public.
Right.
Definitely, being a free group, it has its own challenges. But now there are like problems that even I don't know how to solve yet. I mean, sometimes people say, hey, how do we like decide how to store our logs? I'm like, go read online, create a design doc and tell me. Right? So that is how it started. Initially, I was not sure how it's going to go. This is different from boot camps and courses. And then I also needed people to say, hey, I'm a stranger on internet. Do this. I know it doesn't look like much. I know there's no proof that this will work. But if you give me 8 months, 1 year, this will help you out. Like, luckily, some people did it and it worked out. And I would say it worked out exactly like I thought it would. And I've been happy so far.
So I mean, when I heard about it, I first heard about it through Sunny, and then when you had invited me to the Discord, I think I really loved that it is not just like there's this assignment and write this code kind of thing, but it is very and I think I remember telling Sunny about this, that it's not just real world in terms of the problem statement, but it's also real world in how the people are solving it. And I really like that. I remember when we first met in New York, you had this call. I mean, it was evening back then, but it's morning in India, and you're doing the stand up with all of those kids. But I mean, I really like that. People were solving it also in a real world way. Like, you have to come up with like a proper project structure, and you have to like write your issues and what you're going to be doing. And, people in a stand-up actually pick up tasks, and then, if they are not doing it, then obviously there's accountability, because obviously there's a group of people who are talking to each other and they're reviewing each other's code. And it's very much like how you actually work in a tech company environment. And I think that's important, because that's usually one of the challenges that I mean, we all face when we hire freshers, right? I mean,
Yes.
they can write a lot of code, and then they can sometimes, we do hire people who we see their projects on GitHub or something, and we know that, I mean, this guy can, build a very nice website. All of that is great, but then, you throw them into a structured environment where, you have to talk to lots of stakeholders like engineering managers and product managers, and then, not just barge into everything and do everything, but pick up your tasks according to what, is what the team needs to do right now. And then actually write those technical logs, present like the whole upward visibility, downward visibility thing. Like, how do you write a doc that, your peers will read? How do you write a doc that probably, your product manager will read? Those kind of things. But yeah, I think I see like glimpses of all of that happening, and that's definitely super interesting what you're doing with RealDev Squad. Any new plans on that? How many people are there right now? I think it's a few hundred.
Right now, yeah, we have a group just less than 100, but half of them are mentors. So we have very good mentor to developer ratio. We have like people like you, Arpit, Sunny, Shruti Kapoor, like people who are actually willing to help if asked, right? If asked for a favor. I think the plan is obviously to grow it. We are structuring it. My focus always has been to make sure that people who are serious and committed, discipline we can help you with a little bit with, but you have to be accountable, right? You have to commit the hours, you have to show up, you have to ask for help where you need. We can help you in the beginning with that, but then if you ghost or if you don't do the work that you promised us you would do, it's not going to work out well for you, and that's okay, right? Like everybody has a way of working. This is ours. The only difference is I think a lot of people think you have to be already good to come into RealDev Squad. It's actually the very opposite. We have taken people who don't even know how to write HTML, and after 2 years they're working at Razorpay.
Right.
So tech is easy. We can teach you tech, but you have to be sure that you show up. You have to be sure that you are receiving the feedback, acting on it, and then if you need help, asking. The issue is most people, they don't even show up. They'll join the group and they will even send their first message out.
Right. On that note, and when I talk to some of these kids, a lot of people just probably half in jest, but they say that there are two sides of Ankush. Like there's the side where he's like this friendly person asking you to come and build projects and everything. But then there are stand-ups where there's a very different side of Ankush where he has a lot of hard conversations. So I mean, what about the hard conversations? Is it something you feel like it's needed for people to understand the accountability part?
So yeah, this is something I actually recently found out, where I met some people in real life and they're like, oh, you're nicer than what I've heard. And I'm like, makes sense. But in short, at work, what you see outside of RDS, that is my mode at work: friendly, helpful, constructive. In RealDev Squad, I take the position of a coach. And I also want the game playing at hard level. Because if you try to reach the hard level and you don't meet that standard and you fall down to medium, you're still going to be better than average.
Fair.
Right? Fair. And I also customize my approach based on context. So not everybody sees the scary side in the first go. It's usually when people have repeatedly not heard the feedback, not done their work, promised things, not delivered them, not communicated. It's generally when there's something going wrong. For people who are doing great, I don't need to be, critical on, and I want them to learn this lesson within the group, because tomorrow when you go into the industry, we don't know what kind of manager you are going to get. Maybe you will get a manager who doesn't like mistakes happening in the early on. Happens, right? Happens. I want people to be prepared not to look bad in front of them. Anything that happens in the group, nobody outside will know. But when you work at a company and things are not going well, it directly impacts you, right? It's going to impact your well-being, it's going to impact your job security, and I don't want people to leave the group and suffer outside.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, I mean, being ready for life is important. Yeah. Another aspect on your presence in the community is like, you have been doing a lot of these Twitter Spaces, and I've tried to join sometimes as well. So when did these start, and how has these been going?
Twitter Spaces started during COVID time. Before Twitter, I was very active on Clubhouse. Actually, made a lot of friends there. Didn't meet enough people in tech there. But when Twitter came out with Twitter Spaces, which was similar, started doing that. Met Sunny, and Sunny and I started hosting a lot of Twitter Spaces.
Right.
And over time, I just figured out that people need a place to ask a real person questions. YouTube is there. YouTube is great. People just want to come and.
But YouTube is not two-way, right? I mean,
it's not two-way.
It's
exactly.
a live stream. You're just listening to what somebody's saying.
Right. And I also wanted people to get comfortable talking to strangers. Again, the same coach, mentor mode. I want people to come up and talk, because ultimately each one of us has to meet new people every now and then. Yeah. You have to keep networking, right? If you are reluctant to talk to people, have small talk with them. And if tech is the only thing you talk, it becomes harder for you to like grow your network. Did Twitter Spaces. People tell me it's been useful in a lot of ways, which is good. It's an open place. Just come in and ask what you want.
Right.
I very rarely do very targeted topics.
Right.
So yeah, it's a hangout place. It's a chill place. People join. They talk about all sorts of stuff. But like from DMs, I feel it's helped a lot of people, and that's why I keep continuing to do it.
Right. A lot of the people who come in are like, like in the college in third or fourth year, or very early stage in their careers in tech, right?
Yeah.
What kind of questions do you mostly see from people who are just beginning their careers in tech usually?
I think right now the questions that come in the most are the resume not getting shortlisted, right? People trying to apply for a job. Like the market has been brutal on freshers especially.
Fair.
That has been like, hey, I've applied to 100 places, 200 places. I've gone for third interview, got ghosted. Those are the most typical questions. And then sometimes every now and then, what project to build, right? What project will get me the job? So things are a lot more job focused.
Got it. Understood. And I'll probably come to the interesting question that I had from the beginning was about you recently joined Fountane, and it's a small startup, right? So coming from Bloomberg to Fountane, first of all, I will ask, what this transition has been like, and then I will of course the other part is like, why did you take such a decision?
Got it. So first part, like what the transition has been, I think transition has been relatively smooth. The founders and the leadership team has been very supportive.
Right.
I've been talking to them for close to a year, even before I joined Fountane. Spoke to a few people who were working there, and what happened is Bloomberg was going well. I had a lot of fun at Bloomberg, but eventually somewhere the IC role has become easier than usual. There's lots to do, but then when you work at a very big company, there's usually small projects that I was getting. So either I had to change to a larger company to get like a project where I would have learned a lot more.
Right.
But I also somewhere felt that a part of my skill set that is not growing is helping other people grow. And I really wanted to like make that my full-time job. I was already doing that at RealDev Squad. I'm having a good time, but I think I also wanted to do more in a proper corporate structure.
Right.
I knew there would be a lot of learnings for me, and that's why I transitioned to Fountane.
Got it. And so now, how what's your role like here? Like you're getting to coach a lot of people, like you do at RDS.
Yeah. So Fountane, I get to coach people. Like the reason, one reason I joined Fountane is the founders and the leadership team is very, very motivated to help their existing employees grow and their well-being. Like I went to dinner with the founders and just hearing them talk about, it was a casual dinner,
Right.
and the way they were talking about how they want to like help the company and their employees grow. I'm like, I want to be like helping them out there. Um, on top of it, we get to like work on different projects: automobile, medical, retail, hotel, like all sorts of different domains, all within like a single company.
Right.
Different tech stacks, different problems, different challenges. So lot of things to keep me excited and up to date with what's happening in the industry.
Yeah. On that, I mean, what does Fountain really do?
Fountain generally does two things. One, it is a very deeply embedded strategic technical partner, right? Like a white glove service. We help you bring your ideas to life.
Okay.
And it's also a joint venture studio. So we partner with you and we build really amazing companies.
Okay. So like if somebody's starting to has an idea and starting to build an app or something like that, then Fountain is somebody who can partner and help you build that.
Not just build, we'll help you like you come with the idea and the expertise in your domain, and we'll help you like 10x that.
Right. And if somebody joins a place like this, which is a bit unconventional, like, I mean, let's say you want to go for a job at a place like whatever, like say Hotstar or a Zomato or a Geo Cinema. It's like, okay, I mean, there's an app, we all know how to use it, and we're just gonna go and join a team which builds that app, and right. But people, if somebody joins a place like Fountain, what does it look like for the engineers in your team?
So in terms of opportunities,
Yeah.
the opportunities are similar to any modern company. Yes, the structure we are improving because we are a smaller company, we are evolving, things will get better with time. But in terms of the growth opportunities are like, when I saw the kind of projects the engineers are working on, I'm like, do I want to like just switch to one of those teams? Like one of the folks, they're working on a 3D configuration software on web, right?
Yeah.
All the cool stuff and the cool tech, like they're on it. When somebody's working on like proper backend in Go for like the first time in the company,
Right.
Yeah, it's enough challenges, enough opportunities for growth, especially for people who are starting out.
Nice. Cool. I think it's great to see you're getting to kind of jam on your own vibe that with RDS you're helping people, and something similar you're getting to do. I'll probably to conclude, I would ask a few more questions around you are mentoring and coaching a lot of these young software engineers who are starting out their careers and all. What sort of advice do you have? And I'll probably split that question in terms of learning, and then also towards like figuring out opportunities in career. But first I would say, like, in terms of learning, people who are just starting to write code and see their code run, and starting to feel good about it, and then thinking that they want to make this part of their life. They want to write code for money. They want to become a software engineer, and they're starting out their career. And like you were saying, I mean, as a market, obviously, it's a bit tough right now in terms of jobs and all. But even before you get into career opportunities, in terms of learning, what are your top pieces of advice for people who are starting out?
Yeah, I mean, the advices are so many that I run Twitter spaces for them. But generally speaking, I would say people should first figure out why they want to like write code. Like, what is the part in that job that interests them? Some people like problem solving. Some people want to build something cool. Some people, like, everybody has a different reason.
Right.
Get some clarity, and sometimes it can be just money, right? But if you are coding for money, make sure you're amazingly good in coding where money keeps flowing in.
Right.
Figure out the why. Be very honest with yourself why you are coding. And now when you code, instead of jumping on every trend and every random influencer telling you things and trying to give you a roadmap, don't do that. Do your own research, do your own homework.
Right.
Read from the horse's mouth, learn from the horse's mouth. Like, if you're looking for a job, go see what companies are hiring for, what are the trends in hiring, like make your own deductions.
Right.
I keep hearing MERN is oversaturated and nobody's hiring Go, and they're like just these random things floating around because of random things happening on the internet. You just need one job, right? You don't, like, if there are 1,000 jobs open for go like aim for one of them if you like the language. Do your own research, do your own homework. Markets don't change overnight, right? just because AI showed up, suddenly AI jobs will be there and programming jobs will disappear will not happen overnight.
Right.
It will be a gradual decline, and you'll see that trend coming, and then you can use that reduction to say, okay, maybe I should like switch over to learning something else.
Right.
Don't buy into the hype is basically what I'm saying. Extremely strong fundamentals, right? Make sure that whatever you are learning in college, if you're doing the CS degree, or if you're not doing the CS degree, at least with computer fundamentals, you're good. Apart from that, be curious, be very curious about how things work. You don't have to learn everything on day one, but make a note of things that will help you in future, right? Like come back, revisit, learn, see where your gaps are. It's okay to start from whatever makes you money, but then don't leave your gaps. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Enough people doing React, but you've been doing React for 2 years. Great. You got a job. It's stable. You have had 2 years now. Like dive deeper into JavaScript, right? Maybe you didn't have time before. Now you do. Fill up that gap. Yeah, I think generally in terms of learning, learn well, because as a fresher, you will not have the experience. But when you are given a task, when you are told exactly what has to be done, there shouldn't be too many gaps there, right? You should be very energetic, take it up, consume it, deliver on it, and then ask for the next one.
Right. And in terms of shaping up your career as well, to the next part of the question, which is, I mean, again, there's a lot of froth and bubble on that discussion. I mean, from that you're probably not getting selected because your resume does not look good, or you're pursuing the wrong tech stack. That's why you're probably not getting opportunities. I mean, there's lots of these discussions happening, which I have seen sometimes in those Twitter spaces as well. Sometimes I see people tweeting at you with similar questions as well. So yeah, I mean, what kind of advice to people who are trying to shape up their career in tech?
I mean, this is a very common question that comes through. A recruiter, especially today, gets thousands upon thousands of resumes every week, right? If you put yourself in the recruiter's shoes, it's going to be almost impossible to see them all. There's no such thing as ATS score. If you're falling for the ATS score scam, make sure you get out of that.
It's just a huge database of resumes. That's all.
It's a resume. It's ATS. It's not even ATS score. Yeah. Right? Companies are selling ATS score so that you buy into their products, and they're fooling you. So again, you also miss all the shots you don't take. So in some places you have to send your resume. But humans trust humans, right? Make sure you are networking. I'm a big opinionated believer in like network. All my jobs are through networking. Yeah, no single job have I applied and my resume got selected and then I went and applied. Like every job I've gone through somebody who I knew there, or in many times people said, hey, you're doing this, why don't you come work here under my team? And I'm like, okay, sure, why not? Build your network, right? How to build lots of ways, but generally the idea is 99% of things that you do should be your substance, right? You should be able to code well, build your app, build whatever you are interested in. There's no substitute for lacking substance. But then 1% sprinkle it around the world, right? What are you doing with things you know? You learned something, put it out. Talk to a few people who are doing similar things. You find somebody else who's doing their project which looked cool to you. Go follow them, go talk to them. Build a network so that when you need it, you can use your network to then apply for a job. That resume comes through a different pipeline, depending on who referred you.
Of course.
Right? Like we know, like when somebody who's a VP, somebody who's a tech lead, they refer you and they follow up.
Yeah.
That resume at least gets looked at.
Right.
And being able to jump in front of thousands of resumes, that's a big win in itself.
Exactly.
And sometimes, even when there are concerns which are there on your resume or your profile, the person who's advocating for you, who's referring you, can help fill those if there is confusion. So you don't fall through the cracks.
Right.
So network, get people to refer you, but don't apply to random people saying, hey, can you refer me? Like that's not as useful. Know people in advance, have good, authentic, genuine connections with them. And one day when they are looking for a teammate, if they like you and they know your skills and what you do, chances are they are going to ask you, hey, we have this opening. Why don't you like send me a resume? I'll apply. Or I've spoken to my hiring manager. They want to talk to you, right? Like good things happen.
Right.
So build that network from like year one in college. And people will say, how will I do it in college? Tech is online, right? Like use online to your advantage. go attend hackathons, go to different cities, go to different conferences, like pick and choose where you want to be. So yeah.
Yeah. About the networking question part, though, I mean, I do want to ask a follow-up question as to, sometimes I personally feel is that some people hear this advice, like build in public and network, and I think they go overboard with the public part than the build part.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
So,
People hear advice and they blow it out of proportion, right? Like I have muted 100 days of code. I don't want to see 100 days of code, right? If you have to like force yourself to code for 100 days, you don't like your craft, right? You don't like to problem solve, you don't like to build. You are trying to force yourself to get into the habit of building. It may work for a lot of people, that's good, but I personally want to see that person who is building stuff without any incentive, without any reward, because they wanted to build a cool project, right? They are putting out their insights, they are putting out their project progress. That's the person I'm rooting for, and that's the person who I want on my team.
yeah. Also, I feel like, every time I open something like LinkedIn, on Twitter, I probably see less of these things, but on LinkedIn, when somebody written, it's my 50th day of 100 days of code.
Yeah.
And great, good for you. Nothing bad about it. And you're, forcing yourself to write code for 100 days.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. But then, I see sometimes like fairly elaborate posts about like, you've gone halfway through 100 days of code. And I feel like, what is that person expecting out of this? Probably if they have actually finished a project, maybe even something like a to-do list, but they have actually built a project, hosted it somewhere, and then they post that, hey, I made this project. I would definitely be more in, probably make a mental note that, hey, next time when I'm hiring for, fresher web developers, I might want to look at this profile. And I do actually have that. I have a public Git repository as well as a private one. The public one, actually, it's called Awesome Devs. It's on my GitHub repository. And sometimes I find somebody who has done a really good project. I just go and put it on the GitHub. And then I myself go and look back at it when I'm trying to hire people. But it's also like public. It's like, I know I have collated some data, and if anybody wants to hire somebody from this list, it's like it's kind of like people I recommend because I have seen good projects that they've done. Then I do have a private list. Also, sometimes I see somebody doing a great project, like, okay, just noting it down somewhere, because now it has been a lot of years, so the list is big and it's easy to find people from that when you're trying to hire for a specific role, or a friend at a startup says that, hey, I'm looking for somebody who is particularly good in Flutter, and like, oh yeah, I do have this list of people who I've seen made Flutter projects. Nice. But then I have made half of my project, and every day I'm posting something about it. I think beyond a certain point, it feels like, okay, what do I do with this information though? So I think a lot of people take the public part of the advice a little too much and focus less on the build part.
Or contributing to open source by doing readmes.
Yeah. So I think that's what I think people say, the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. So you can't forget the spirit of what the message was about, and like, kind of just follow the letter of the message. But yeah. But yeah, great. I would say, loved getting to know all of these, your inspiration for starting RealDev Squad, and it's a, brilliant community that you built. And I, ever since I have been in the Discord as a mentor, I love seeing that, how people are building projects in a very real world way. And gonna be looking out to see what kind of stuff you go and build at Fountane. It's something exciting that you're doing.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me here. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.